Hello and welcome to another edition of Subsbench here on both Facebook and YouTube. Thanks very much for joining us. There's some more chat about Bristol football past and present. Sadly this week Richard's not with me, just feeling a little bit under the weather. Nothing too serious, but we wish you well, Richard. So he won't be able to join me for our usual chat, but we have got two great archive interviews for you of players who've represented both City and Rovers. We've got Martin Thomas, who was a goalkeeper of great distinction when he joined Rovers as a youth player before moving on to, among others, Newcastle United and Birmingham City, and of course played for Wales at full international level too. We'll be talking to him shortly. And we've got Peter Beadle, centre forward for both Rovers and City. We caught up with him at a match at Mangotsfield United a few years back when he was manager of Hereford FC. But first, before that, of course, things have changed just a little bit since last week. We had thought by now we might have a new manager of Bristol City, but there have instead been a few new names put into the frame over the course of the weekend. Some of the Sunday newspapers were suggesting that Stephen Gerrard is now right there up in the pecking order, and that Steve Lansdown rather fancies that as an appointment. Quite why he would want to come to Bristol City when he's just signed a new contract at Rangers, I'm not quite sure, but it may well be true, you never know. And then the other name that's come into the frame is John Terry, currently assistant at Aston Villa, of course, who are in a lot of relegation trouble in the Premier League. Would he want to come to Ashton Gate to start his managerial career? Well, I suppose stranger things have happened. Meanwhile, of course, Chris Hughton is still the bookies' favourite as we speak at the moment, and Ryan Lowe is also in the frame as well. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe by next week's programme we'll know who's going to be the new manager of Bristol City. So anyway, let's turn to our featured interviews of the week, and we're going to dip back into the archive a few years ago when Peter Beadle was manager of Hereford FC, and he brought his team along to Cosham Street to play against Mangotsfield United in a game that was postponed at the last minute because of a frosted pitch. So we took a chance to talk to Peter about his career with both the Bristol clubs, and Richard asked him first of all how he came to join Rovers.
It started with a phone call from Glenn Roeder. I was at Watford at the time, and we just played Bristol Rovers actually in a reserve game and won 5-1, and I had a particularly good game, and it sort of came from there. And I went and met John and went home, drove all the way back to Kent from Bristol on the night, and then they come back and agreed everything that we could do, and then I went up there the next day and then made my debut at Wycombe.
So John Ward was manager then. So memories of that time?
It was good. I had a great start. To be fair, I got a couple of goals early. Made a really good sort of connection with Marcus and got a nice little rapport going with Marcus, and Marcus finished with 30 goals and I finished with 12, and I didn't have that many games, so I was really looking forward then to the next season and getting things going again next year.
Of the strike partners you played with, I imagine Marcus Stewart was probably one of the best.
I've had some good ones. I mean, like I said, in my time at Bristol Rovers and at Bristol City, I had some. Marcus was there when I first went there, and then Barry came in. Jamie Curitan was there. Julian Alsop was there as well. So we had an abundance of good forwards, and not long after I left, I think Jason Roberts came in, so just missed that one. And then Bristol City again, had some fantastic players there as well. So Tony Thorpe, some good goal scorers, and certainly for the levels we were at. So yes, it was good.
The Bristol Rovers, then, your times at Bristol Rovers, not probably as successful as you would have liked it for the team.
We did great. I think the year, my final full season, I personally had a fantastic year. My best ever tally, 19 goals that year. We got to the playoffs, and obviously had a fantastic first leg and gave away a really sloppy goal towards the end. And after taking a 3-0 lead, went to Northampton and we crumbled a little bit. And listen, at the end of the day, we had a really really young side then. Apart from Andy and myself, and Barry, the rest of them, we had Tom Ramasut, Jamie Curitan, Tom White, Steve Foster. It was a young side, and we done great to get to where we were, and unfortunately we lost out to a very well organised and a very experienced Northampton team, and like I said, the plan was to learn from that experience and move on, but my time was then cut short, and I moved on to Port Vale in the pre-season the following year.
But while at Rovers, I mean, you were a big centre forward in most ways, but you scored some spectacular goals, but you could hit it from distance, couldn't you?
I did. I was very fortunate fortunate. A lot of them took bobbles and stuff, but no, I always saw myself as more of a supplier of goals, and if I can chip in, and always look to get myself in double figures if I could. And like I said, in my time at Bristol Rovers, I did that. I achieved that. I had a hand in many goals, and I managed to get myself sort of 12, 15 goals a year, and then the final year managed to get to 19, which I was really pleased with.
So how did the move to Bristol City come about? You had a couple of clubs in between.
I did, yeah. I went to Port Vale and then went to Notts County, and then when I went to Notts County, they were struggling a bit. Sam brought in 3 or 4 players, myself and a few others. We managed to stay up, and then the following year he had a bit of a reshuffle and said that he was happy for me to find another club if I could. I think there was conversations between my agent and 1 or 2 other clubs, and then out of the blue, Bristol City showed an interest with Tony. Tony Pulis was the manager then, and showed an interest, and I was really keen to talk to them. Obviously, Bristol Rovers, I think, were also semi-interested. But then the deal was agreed between us and Bristol City, and people know me. I love a challenge, and I knew it was going to be tough, and it was exactly that. It was tough, but I think by the time I finished there, I think people respected me, which was the most important thing, and I think every time I played there, I did an okay job. So and it was a fantastic experience. And again, I think I had playoff misery. I think we lost to Cardiff in the playoffs with Danny, but we also had the Wembley with Tony and Leroy and Dave, and then obviously the Millennium with Danny a couple of seasons later. So and again, we won 1 and lost 1. Unfortunately, the one we won I didn't play in. I was on the bench, but great memories, and like I said, as a footballer, they're the things that you embrace and you remember all the time.
Tony Pulis, look, you signed you, but he didn't have very long at Bristol City. Was it the case of the wrong man at the wrong club, do you think? Because he's gone on to prove himself as a really good manager elsewhere, hasn't he? I
think at the time he was still finding his feet as a manager and finding out about himself and wanting to learn more about himself, and I think he also, being former Rovers, wanted a challenge, and obviously Bristol City is a huge club, and it's achieving great things now, and he really wanted it to work there, but sometimes people aren't, you're not given much time to do things. They want instant success, and maybe sometimes at certain football clubs they expect a certain style of play, and maybe Tony's wasn't quite to their liking at Bristol City, but I'm sure, like I said, he laid foundations there. Some of the players there went on to good things and got to Wembley that year. So like I said, it wasn't all bad.
No, and going to Wembley, and you played Stoke City, didn't you, in the final? Fantastic support for both sides that day, because Stoke brought brilliant support, didn't they? It was a big occasion and a great day. It
was a huge day for a lot of people. Obviously, it was the year they were going to tear Wembley down, and we've talked about, even with me at Hereford now, with the things we did last year, we've talked about players' aims in their careers and what they want to achieve, and obviously the big things to play for your country, and you want to play at Wembley in a major final, so for us to get to the old Wembley, and certainly for me as a player, it was one of the things you dream of as a boy, and unfortunately it didn't work out, but the day itself was something that I'll never forget.
It was the last final there, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know it was the year they tore it down, and but I mean, like I said, 80,000, all red and white, unbelievable atmosphere, and it was an okay game as well, from what I can remember. It was to-ing and fro-in, but unfortunately they got the rub of the green on the day, and we came away losers, unfortunately.
Yeah, very little in it on the day. And then the second one, you were sub at the Millennium Stadium. That's right. Moved to this time 2-0 against Carlisle. Some memories of that day? Yeah,
again, the build-up, I think, was certainly for me wasn't so nervous, because obviously I didn't expect to play, but also been to Wembley a couple of seasons before, it was something to try and enjoy, and I was obviously a senior player, because again I think we had quite a few young boys. I think Liam Rossini was just starting to make his way in football then with the club, so so it was about trying to keep everything light-hearted and relaxed and everything else, and like I said, the support again was fantastic on the day, and this time, fortunately for us, it was a good memory. Just again for me, it was a bit bittersweet, it didn't get on, but was part of it, and like I said, and another great memory, one that you, like I said, you always go back to, and I show my now grown-up children about that I did actually play one many moons ago.
So Bristol as a city must mean a fair bit to you, having played for both clubs here.
It did. I mean, when I first moved to Bristol Rovers, it's interesting. I mean, I thought Bristol Rovers was a very family-orientated club, and there was a different type of connection there between the players and the supporters. It was very close knit, and people said to me that lots of people have moved here and will never move back, and and that seems to be the case, because I live in the Cotswolds, so I'm still in the southwest. My family, different reasons, have moved back to London, but I'm still here with my family now, and I probably would never move back. And I love it here. It's a great place to bring your children up and a great place to live.
Peter Beadle there. Yeah, a lot of players come and play for either City or Rovers and then don't want to move away because it's such a good place to live. So anyway, it was an interesting chat with him. I hope supporters of both sides enjoyed hearing Peter Beadle's memories. We're going to talk now though to Rovers' favourite goalkeeper Martin Thomas, who when he was at Rovers as a youth player was battling for his first team place with Phil Kite, of course. That's probably what in the end led to Martin leaving Bristol Rovers, and he, as I said at the start of the programme, went on to represent Newcastle United in the top division, also Birmingham City, so a pretty good career for him, and he also won an international cap for Wales as well. So when we spoke to Martin Thomas, he came in to talk to us on the TV programme. We asked him how he started out in his football career.
I come from a little place called St Gennydd in just north of Cardiff, and played all sport, but my dad was a rugby player, played for Cardiff. My elder brother played rugby for Cardiff, and quite ironic, I turned out to be the black sheep, as they say. But there was an advert in the local evening paper, the South Wales Echo, just asking for people who wanted to go for trials with Bristol Rovers. I wrote off to the PO Box number, got a reply back, and went down to Barry in June of, I think it would have been around about 74, and had a trial, and then Stan Montgomery asked me to join the club, and that's really where it all started.
So you were part of the enormous number of players produced over in Wales that Stan Montgomery sent across to join Rovers.
I think the day myself and Vaughan Jones signed, we signed on the same day, we were the 13th and 14th Welsh player at the club, so it was fantastic. Yeah.
And who was manager then, and who were the managers you played with?
That was Don Megson was the manager when I signed apprentice, and then when I got in the first team, Don left and Bobby Campbell came in, and then we had Harold, Bobby Gould, Terry Cooper, and when I left the club, Dave Williams had just been given the job.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some great memories. It was a long time ago, as we both know, because we're just the same age, I'm afraid, Martin. But it's amazing how goalkeeping has changed, because you've very kindly brought in some memorabilia. We've got your Welsh caps there, which we'll talk about later. But I'm just going to pass these to you. These are the gloves, more or less from the start and the end of your career, aren't they?
They are, actually, and
the first lot look like this sort you might use to drive a car in the 1930s.
The 30s, yeah, and these were actually endorsed by Ron Springett, the Sheffield Wednesday and England goalkeeper, 1963. So, you know, we are looking at a long time, and they've aged really well. They obviously haven't been worn.
But they're just like normal gloves, whereas the other pair you've got, gloves, which are presumably from later in your career, are specialist goalkeeping gloves.
Yeah, and these, that was at the start. And, when I finished, these were the gloves, latex-based, made in Germany, and fantastic grip, all weathers, and protection as well.
And I imagine the technology's moved on even more since those, hasn't it?
Yeah, they've. I think they get to a stage where they become a little bit gimmicky, and a lot of the goalkeepers of my age still look back at this glove as being probably the most comfortable that they ever had.
Very important piece of equipment.
But in saying that, the ball has changed dramatically as well. So,
absolutely.
These with the modern ball just wouldn't work.
How was your time with Rovers in terms of success on the field, and who were the players you enjoyed playing with?
I got in the team very young. I was in the first team at 17 regular, and Paul Randall obviously came into the team at the same time. Paul obviously went on to Stoke and and did well, although he returned to Bristol. Gary Mabbott, went on and obviously captained Tottenham, and obviously played for England. And it was a great time, and the one thing with Rovers was you knew you would get an opportunity. So the likes of myself, Vaughan Jones, Geraint Williams, Mabsy, Mark Hughes, we were all given an opportunity to play. So if we'd been at, with the greatest respect, a bigger club, we probably wouldn't have been given the chance.
Now, one of the quirks of football is that you made your debut against Charlton, you were telling us,
I did.
and your final game for Rovers was also against Charlton. You brought the programmes in.
For Birmingham, actually.
For Birmingham, was it,
for
right?
Birmingham, yeah. So I made my debut up at the Valley, and my last game was for Birmingham against Charlton in '93.
So that's like bookends to your career.
Yeah.
So how many games were in between?
My last game was 449. Yeah, I didn't get to the 450 league games, which was obviously would have been nice, but yeah, I had 449.
But what you did do was get capped by Wales, as we can see here, at every level. Virtually, you've got your youth, haven't you? Got under 21 or and a full
yeah,
cap.
21s. Yeah, so there's 3 there. We didn't play a lot of fixtures at youth level, so you'd only sort of play one game and to qualify for the Europeans. And as you can see from the caps, they're actually dated for the season. So with the FA Wales, they basically give you a cap with your, obviously the season's on the peak, rather than a lot of countries, and they have the names embroidered.
Yeah,
you know?
and you played one senior international, is that right?
I played one senior game,
against?
yeah. That was against Finland in European Championships in '86. Neville was the first choice goalkeeper. Yeah, Eddie Niedzwiecki from Chelsea. And at that era, obviously I was playing at Newcastle. Andy Dibble was playing at Luton. Tony Norman was playing at Sunderland. So we had 5 Welsh goalkeepers playing in the first division. And Neville got injured, Eddie got injured, and I got called up, and thankfully, because I'd been on the bench 13 times in the sort of early 80s.
Because you were telling us you were on the bench for a famous game against England.
Yeah, I was, yeah, the infamous game at Wrexham, yeah, when England beat Argentina on the Tuesday evening at Wembley with Maradona, and then they came to Wrexham and got turned over by Wales 4-1. Yeah, so it was it was fantastic.
As Englishmen, I'm sure that pleased us a lot.
I can't think why I can't remember it.
No, exactly.
It was quite ironic because, of course, Ray played in goal. Ray Clements played in goal that day, and of course, with working for the FA, myself and Ray have obviously, although he's retired now.
Does he talk about it much?
Well, I'd often remind him, let me tell you.
We must, before we leave the Rovers connection, bring in a photo, because I mentioned on Facebook that Martin was going to join us, and various Rovers fans got in touch, including Michael Worcester. So let's have a look at this picture. Now, Martin, Michael says that he shares the same birth date as you, the 28th of November, and way back in the 70s sometime, he had the chance to meet the team, and he took shots against you, and he said he was brilliant, and that's you making a save there, and little Michael Worcester. Do you remember it?
I don't actually remember it, but I remember the training ground, and look at the state on that. You don't see that now.
And you're playing in a rugby shirt. You said your family had rugby connections. Did you borrow it from your brother or something?
I didn't actually, but I always used to wear a rugby shirt, for training, and I think it was around about 1980 that,
great. Now bring it up to date. You work for the FA now, don't you? As a goalkeeping coach. That must be a lot of fun developing the future goalkeepers. Yeah,
I've been at the FA since '93, and I joined full time in '98. So I've done 18 years. I had a dual role up until 12 months ago. I was the under-21 goalkeeping coach with Gareth, but also running coach education. But both jobs, I was finding they were growing, and I made a decision last year, so I'm purely working in education now, so working with coaches.
Martin Thomas there, always good to talk to him, and some good memories from him as well, and now doing some good work in the coaching realm for the English FA. So that's just about it from this edition of Subsbench. We've missed Richard, of course. We hope he'll be back with us next week, and I hope you'll join us as well for some more archive interviews of Bristol City and Bristol Rovers players of yesteryear. Thanks for watching. See you soon.